So I mentioned in my previous video that this particular video, which is a further continuation of the Purplexed panel, would be the start of looking at Megan on Purplexed channel. However, having looked at this particular section, I decided that while I had originally thought of it as being a lead-in to Megan coming up on panel, that it was actually worthwhile to look at this separately on its own, because it is a discussion amongst Purplexed and other panelists about claims made by Megan in terms of what drugs were available at the party. And of course, I have my own questions about this as to how Megan knew these things, if Megan knew these things. So it made sense to me that this should be a video on its own, as opposed to a lead-in for Perplexed conversation with Megan. So let's have a listen to what the panelists have to say about Megan's claims in relation to Party Favours and Sammy Smith. And as mentioned in previous videos in this series, I have altered the pitch slightly to provide some anonymity for panelists.
What do you guys think about Megan saying that Kiely had cocaine in her system?
I don't.
Well, Sammy does say that they went off and to go do other stuff, but she never said what the other stuff was.
Now here's the thing. Megan claimed, on one hand, she claimed that Sammy told her this. Another time she claimed that Jagger told her this. And then when questioned about how come she's saying that two separate people told her this, she then turns around and says, oh, well, they both told me this. But then at the same time, we have Jagger claiming that he's never spoken to Megan Cole and he doesn't know the woman and that he thinks she's a bit of a fruitcake. So in terms of her claims about Kiely having coke, yes, it's a possibility. Perhaps the information did come from Sammy, or perhaps this is something that Megan knows herself because she provided it. I don't know. Either she is bullshitting about the coke, or she's not telling the truth about how come she knows that Kiely had coke in her system. Now, the other thing she did with all this is that at one stage she's saying that she knows that Kiely went and did coke with Jagger and Kate or something in the afternoon. We know that, well, we can presume that that's not Kate's scene. She's a girl from a very good background, Christian background. She just doesn't strike me as the sort of kid that is going to get into coke. But at the same time, Megan also, when people pushed for the story, out of the blue, she then came up with the narrative that, she had it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it would have been out of her system by the time she drove into the reservoir. Honestly, I think when it comes to Megan talking about Kiely and talking about her having coke in her system, I think it's definitely a possibility. And if you watched my video the other day talking about the dangers of fentanyl in in drugs, and particularly the dangers of it not being mixed adequately so that you may get a fatal dose in one drug but not in another, then it is possible that there was fentanyl-laced coke at the party. We can't rule it out. But then when you look at the autopsy results, there doesn't seem to be anything significant there either, saying that Kiely had been taking cocaine before she died. So essentially what I'm saying here is that Megan might have a little snippet of information, but I believe that if she does actually have any factual information there, that she's run with it and expanded on the story just to try and make herself more important, to make the story sound bigger.
And there is drug use in this community. I think within any small town there is going to be drug use.
There's drug use all across our country.
There is. And when I was in high school, there were people using, like, ecstasy was big when I was in high school. That was kind of like the big drug that was coming out. A lot of people were using ecstasy. Cocaine was definitely prevalent in some of the high school parties that I went to. I personally never partook in any of that in high school, but it was definitely there. And after hearing that, it's like, I can't say like, oh, that would, I can't say that would never happen at a party in Truckee. I know for a fact it happened when I was in high school here. So like I said, I didn't personally know Kiely. I don't personally know the people she was with, but if someone told me there was cocaine at a high school party here, I would not be surprised.
Now, we know from law enforcement that this was the case, that there were drugs and alcohol at the party, and that there were people who were underage who were partaking of these things. Going back once again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was coke at the party. In fact, I'd be surprised if there wasn't coke at the party. And I think we've heard the stories about shrooms. On one hand, Megan says Sammy claims there weren't shrooms, but then we've heard other stories saying there were. So I think we can be pretty confident that there were party favours there at the party. But as to what Kiely took, well, we know she liked a bit of weed. But other than that, I don't put any credence on Megan's claims that Jagger told her that that's what Kiely had been doing in terms of coke. And I will note that her then adding in that Sammy told her this also, that was more something that she added in later after people started questioning if Jagger had actually told her this, because other people had information from Jagger saying that he'd never told her anything. My question also is, Megan is so relaxed talking about these things. Does she allow her own children to take these drugs? She's certainly made it no secret that she has MJ pretty much every night. And she's also made it no secret that she has partaken of coke in the past. So, does she allow this with her children, while at the same time trying to convince us that they are just squeaky clean?
Or deny it, or be shocked.
And I find it a little odd that Megan claims that she knew Sammy so well. Her daughter and Sammy were so close for 3 years, nonstop, every single day. Those were her words. They hung out, yet she never, ever met Sammy's parents.
And she said she only talked to Sammy twice. She had all this information, but then three. Had all this information.
And I thought was odd is when Megan said, I called Sammy, I think it was, she said the day after maybe she went missing. Kiely went missing, and Megan's words were, Sammy, do you know who this is? And Sammy didn't know who it was.
Now, I do vaguely remember hearing Megan say that about Sammy not knowing who it was when she rang her after Kiely went missing. But I honestly don't know where I heard it, and I don't think it's in any of the panel interviews that still exist, which is a disappointment. So possibly it was said on Grey Hughes, in which case I've probably only heard part of the Grey Hughes conversation, because I know I never heard the full thing. And yes, if there's anyone out there with a copy of that, I would still like to listen to it. But they're so spot on with calling out Megan about how well she knows Sammy, and about the contradictions about how well she knows Sammy. You know, she did say on Icked Mel that she spoke to Sammy, she spoke to her mother. And then at a later time, she says that she never met Sammy's parents, never spoke to Sammy's parents, wouldn't even know what they looked like, didn't even know what they did. And yet, as I've mentioned in previous videos, her daughter was, 12 when she moved, or Sammy was 12 when she moved back to Truckee. You're telling me that your daughter's best friend was a 12-year-old and yet you never met her parents? You're claiming you drove her places in your car, you took her camping. So you took her camping without discussing it with her parents? How did she get, with all her camping gear, to your place or into your car? Did she just suddenly walk to your place with all her camping gear? Because to me, if you're going camping, then you've got a bit of gear. That means someone needs to either pick you up or you need to be dropped off. And surely, as a parent, if your child was going camping with another child and their parents, and you were dropping them off, wouldn't you want to meet the parents? So many questions here, and I think these guys are spot on in questioning what the heck is Megan's actual relationship with Sammy. Because I don't think she's been truthful. Well, we know she's not been truthful because she contradicted herself on pretty much every single panel that she went on, talking about her relationship with Sammy and how well she knew Sammy. On one hand, she only spoke to Sammy a few times. On the other hand, she knows Sammy so very well and intimately and, yada yada. So, it can't be both. So these guys are spot on in terms of what they're saying here. Now, this panel moves on to Megan being on panel. So this is where I'll stop this particular video and I'll take it up again with Megan appearing on panel and what Megan actually said while she was on panel with Purplexed. Thanks for listening. You know the routine. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Please hit the like button and please leave a comment below.
Give a fuck about me, 'cause if you